If you're a lawyer who's been burned by a marketing agency, maybe you have FOMO, maybe you're watching your competitors do their thing and get leads, or you're just someone who finally needs to make sense of this stuff, this video is for you. My name's Johnny DeJesus. I run DeJesus Media, and we build content systems specifically for attorneys. I have a client right now, an employment attorney. The reach his LinkedIn content is generating, the referral conversations that are starting because of the stories he's telling online, it would actually cost him thousands of dollars in ads, and he's getting them all organically, meaning no paid advertising. That's the system that I want to walk you through today. So let's get into it. So this is you. You either got burned, you have FOMO, or you need clarity. So if you got burned, you probably got burned because you paid for a certain amount of deliverables for videos, and that's not what you got, so you're not happy about that. You're also unhappy because the lack of results, right? They brought you no work, nobody wants that. And the third thing is communication. Maybe you tried getting back to them, trying to solve the whole thing. Hey, let's have a conversation. They get offended, whatever the case may be. The second reason, it might be FOMO. Right? You're watching your competitors, they're getting tons of engagement. You heard about certain lawyers getting a ton of cases. Then yeah, I'd have FOMO too. Maybe you have anxiety because you don't want to be visible online. And that's okay, because if that's really your only concern, but you actually want to do it because you know the power of creating content, then that's pretty easy to get over actually. Or you just need more clarity, right? Maybe you need clarity on the platforms that you need to post. You need clarity on the content types. What kind of stuff am I going to be talking about? You're also worried about compliance because as a lawyer, rightfully so, you have to worry about that because otherwise the bar in your state might slap your hand. And the time commitment. Are you going to have to put in 30 hours? Can you put in 15 hours? Can you put in 8 hours, right? So let's start with the platform. So your number one platform is obviously going to be LinkedIn if you don't already know this. LinkedIn, that's where it's at. That's where you're going to be able to build referral partners. That's where you're going to be able to likely get leads because a story connected with somebody and they know somebody who's going through the same thing. They're going through that same thing. Stories on LinkedIn are very, very powerful. And aside from that, you definitely want to be posting on all the other platforms as well. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. You need to make sure that your face is out there as much as possible, which is why networking is so powerful. Right? Because we are in these groups over and over and over. Yeah, somebody might be like, let me talk to this guy, let me talk to this girl. I already see them so much that I feel like I might as well talk to them, right? You're on top of mind all the time. Now let's talk about why a lot of lawyers fail online. The first one is they don't really take LinkedIn that seriously, and they should, because there's far too many lawyers who have been able to get leads from LinkedIn. And if you don't trust me, just Google it yourself. The proof is out there. But why do law firms fail on social media specifically? Well, number one, they're very inconsistent. Maybe they put an intern or somebody who just doesn't have the time to manage something like social media because it's a lot, right? There's a lot of moving parts. They usually post about the firm and not the actual client problem. And we're going to talk about that, what that looks like a little later. And they're using AI and everything looks sloppy, everything looks AI generated, everything reads AI generated. And if you actually want a helpful guide on how to be able to write more human-like with something like ChatGPT or Claude, I'm going to leave you a link down in the description with some really good tips on that. And then the third reason why attorneys fail online is because they have a messaging problem, right? They are posting stuff just to post. Some of the old school style stuff, it's like the photos of the law firm, carousel of easy advice, like what's a prenup, or you're posting selfies. The reason there's an opportunity is because most of the AI written stuff sounds identical. The gap is in your uniqueness. If everything is AI generated and it doesn't have your voice, then you're gonna sound literally like everybody else, especially like those people that just use ChatGPT right out of the box. And yes, you can make bar compliant content. It's not about telling people, this is how we got our client $2 million. It's about here's the process of someone in that situation. There's always ways to say what you want to say without saying the thing. Like trying to tell people that you got your client $2 million, which is great. Like a lot of people are going to be impressed by that. What most people care about is what am I going to have to go through and am I going to have like a compensation in the end? So definitely something you can sprinkle in there without necessarily violating any state bars or rules, but it's just how you go about it. And the last of the three opportunities is running ads. It has never been cheaper to run ads online. Not only that, but ads are very, very effective at getting in front of the right people. Meta is really good at this. So my recommendation is if you're going to run ads, run Meta ads because they will be likely the cheapest, and run them very, very locally, maybe in your local county as a starting point. But in terms of numbers at a TV station in a bigger city, you might have to pay $20,000, $30,000. But to start advertising on Meta, you can probably pay anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And so what is it that you actually need? You actually need a system. That's it. You need a system that's going to attract the right person, make it easy for people to contact you, and build enough trust. And so what kind of content do you need? Well, the first content that you're going to want to focus on is just awareness, right? This is typically the easiest to start with. And what's a good example and a bad example? Well, a bad example is something like, what's a prenup? That's something that's super ChatGPT-able. People will be able to Google that. Very easy to figure out. But a good example, are prenups worth it? What have you noticed in 5 years of being a family law attorney and prenups? Now you're mixing your own personal experience with your expertise. And that's really what people want to know. The next thing is you want to focus on people's fears and desires. What kind of outcome does the client want? You have to show them the way, right? So for example, how do I talk to my partner into a prenup? I'm sure that's a very common conversation that a lot of people are afraid of to have with their significant other. So that is something that you can talk about and give expertise. And once you explain it to them in a certain way, maybe they can actually start creating a conversation. And when you explain prenups to people in a certain way with stories, then you can start to have them think about that, yeah, maybe it's a good idea to have a prenup, and maybe I want you to do my prenup because you were the one that explained it to me online. And one of the last ones that you want to talk about is the current pain or frustration, but not the legal problem, right? And what do I mean by that? Let's say there's a business owner who's dealing with an employment dispute. They're not worried about the lawsuit. They're worried about their reputation and their trust. This is what you want to talk to them about. This is their language, not the fact that they're actually having an employment dispute, right? It is the thing that can create the outcome that they don't want. And let's say you've got your content done, you're going to start posting. Let's hope it's videos mostly, not so many photos, but try to stick to video because that is what the platforms want. You're going to want to look at your analytics, because if you don't look at your analytics, then you're just guessing. You're just throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and hopefully it's going to bring conversions, right? The proof does not equal conversion yet, right? Because people need to trust you before they buy from you, especially as a lawyer. You are charging somebody usually thousands of dollars, and that sales cycle is much longer than somebody who's paying a $200 product. So you have to build a trajectory. You have to increase your follower count, because when you make that content that we talked about earlier, where you are talking to that customer, that's the follower that you want. You don't want just anybody. You want the people that are either ready to buy or that will be ready to buy soon, or that just like you because they're likely to refer you out to somebody who will actually buy from you. You want to look at impressions, right? How many people are actually seeing the content? Is there a video that you have there that is doing more impressions than the others? And that's something that you have to double down on. Are you getting direct messages from potential clients? That is something you want to pay attention to. But also referral partners. There are people that are going to follow your content who are also lawyers. And so they're not the expert in the thing that you do. They're the expert in the thing that they do if they don't do what you do. So by you putting out that content, you also get to show them that you are the expert in that field. And that likely will cause them to refer you. So what do we do with all this information? How do you actually move forward and take action? Well, the first thing is you're going to use AI because you want to save time and effort into doing all this research. Yes, you can do the research on your own, but I actually have a handy dandy video that I'm going to leave you in the link down below where I show you how to use Claude, how to feed it good writing frameworks, and how to guardrail it with your own AI anti-hallucination protocol, because when you're talking about figures, obviously that needs to be backed up. So it will kick back the post if you don't have a case cited or if you're not able to cite the sources. And so once you have that installed, you're going to start writing 3 LinkedIn posts a week, okay? Monday, you're going to write the educational part of the story. Why do people need to learn from this story? On Wednesday, you're going to write the emotional part of the story. How did people feel as they went through the thing in the story, and what does that transformation look like? How did the transformation make them feel? And so Friday, you're going to talk about their situation in the beginning, how you change the outcome or help transform their lives through your work. You now know what's actually broken and what to do instead. And remember, I made a full video on how to set up Claude to write in your voice and keep everything bar compliant. That's the link right below. I'll see you in the next one.